Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Harika. So in previous video, we have seen Content Safety Studio, right? Like how we can use Content Safety Studio in order to limit the severity of the messages or the chat history that is there, like to control the restriction of the severity of the messages and everything, correct? So in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can actually use automated machine learning model for training and deploying the models. So basically, if you don't have a machine learning idea, like what exactly the different algorithm the machine learning has and what are the different predictive methods and how you can actually evaluate, what are the different metrics that we use for evaluation, and what are the different procedures that we do, all of this, don't worry. So I will just provide you the link where you can learn it from. And even if you don't know it, the formulas and everything, that's completely fine, because that's what we are using the studio for, because we don't have to really do the calculation by ourselves, because the studio provides the calculation. All we have to know is what type of the algorithm that we're using, when to use what, and how to actually do the procedure like evaluation, training, and like let's say the metrics like normalized root mean square error. Like if that metric is output is coming as certain range, so you have to understand like if this range, whatever the output that's coming in, is suitable for our model. Like is it eligible value that lies in between the standards, so that we can make the judgment, the model can make the right judgment or not. So all these small basic things that you have to have idea on. You don't really have to understand the formula, do the calculations by yourself, but you should be able to identify, or you should be in a position to judge whether the result provided by the model is enough to proceed for the next steps, or or you have to do the retraining. So that till that much, if you have idea, that is enough. So I'll try to show you some things over here in the Microsoft Learn as well, because that is really important. Let me go here. I'll just show you few models, few algorithms that we have. Yes, here. So if you see here, what I would suggest you is, I will provide you this link in the description. You can just go through this. I'll just give you a quick and high level idea about this and what you can have a look on, so that even when we are using Studio, you would be able to understand what is the metric to use, what is the algorithm to use, and all of that. Okay. So in machine learning, we have two types of learning. So algorithms: supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning. So if you see, the difference between both of them is, here we know what is the label. That means what is the predicted label that we are getting out of it, right? But here we don't have a label, we have only features. Okay. So in supervised learning, we have features as well as the labels. And here again, the supervised learning is divided into two things, which is regression and classification. In regression, what you have to remember is the output of the regression algorithm is a numeric value. So if you see here, the example provided here is, we are trying to identify how many number of ice creams are sold based on the temperature, climate, and date, and all of that, right? So we are trying to predict a numeric value based on the previous historical information. So that kind of algorithm, we call it as a regression. And in case of classification, we try to see the outcome that is falling under one or other class. So if there are two outcomes, if the outcome is either of the two outcomes, then we call it as a binary classification. If the outcome can be, fallen into more than, sorry, to put it in a different way, it's like, let's say there are penguins. Okay, so let's say there are penguins, and the outcome of the penguin can be one of either of three classes, more than two classes, basically, I mean. So in binary classification, it can be, the outcome can be either of two classes, but in multi-class, the outcome can be either of three classes. There can be more than two classifications. So that's what multi-class classification is. So both kind of follow similar kind of algorithms. We will see going forward how this actually looks like. But in case of unsupervised machine learning, what happens is, here we are talking about the labels, right? The outcome. It can be numeric or it can be any class. But here the outcome will be clusters. Okay. So here, let's say there's a rose. We try to identify rose with the help of the petals and the leaves that it has. So let's say if the petals is 3 and if the leaf is 1, then in that case we form it into a cluster of roses. Otherwise we form it into a cluster of sunflowers, or otherwise cluster of lilies, like that. The outcome can be a cluster, right? There is no label information in order which we will be utilized for our training purpose, right? So all these are the different types of machine learning algorithms that we have. And going further, if you see, that's what explained here with so many examples, which makes you to understand the concept very clearly. So I would 100% recommend you to go through this particular um, website, Microsoft Learn, and you will try to understand a lot of things in depth, because for me personally, it has helped me to learn a lot of things through this. Even though I have gone through this earlier, it's kind of a refresher for me now. So yes, they have explained it very clearly, like how you actually do the regression model. Like you have a certain training data, right? You split it for training and validation, and you will be using that data for different purposes. Like, you will try to plot the data, and you will try to see what type of algorithm that you can bring, whether it's a linear regression or something like that, right? You try to bring up a this is a function, right? So based on that, you predict and you try to compare both the actual values and the predicted values, and you see what is the difference. And from here, you try to evaluate the metrics, right? Based on mean absolute error, mean squared error. So that's what I'm telling. So you don't have to exactly know how these all are calculated, but you should know what are these metrics, right? What are these metrics are, and how they can be utilized. So let's say if the mean squared error is 6, you should know what does the 6 value is. Is it too high or is it too low? Correct? So that things you should be able to understand. So if you see here, that the result is a value between 0 and 1 that describes the proportion of variation explained by the model. In simple terms, the closer to 1 this value is, the better the model is fitting, right? So if you say the output is 0.95, so basically we will use only coefficient of determination for the output to measure the output result of the model. So if the output of this model is 0.95, you don't have to calculate how this value is coming up, but you have to understand 0.95 means how good the model is performing, right? So here we can see that it is closer to 1. That means the model is performing good. So this much information you should be able to understand from here. Similarly, for binary classification, we have sigmoid and all of that, right? So you derive the sigmoid. Initially, we were having linear regression for our regression model, but for binary classification we have sigmoid. Basically, if you ask me, these all are very interesting to go through and understand the concept in depth. But if you don't understand, that's completely fine. You can have the studio to make things easy for you. So there is a confusion matrix here, right? So this will help you to understand how many true negatives are there, how many true positives are there. So based on that, we calculate accuracy, we calculate recall, precision, and all of that, right? So I would recommend you to just go through on high level for all of this, because we will be whatever the model that we are using in our machine learning studio, for them you have to understand how the model is performing based on this metrics. Okay. So like that, we have for multi-class classification, more or less we use the similar thing. Here we have two types, multinomial and one versus rest, and we have clustering as well, right? For clustering we use a different algorithm altogether, because we don't have labels for clustering. And the deep learning, so deep learning is mainly like forming the neural networks based on the weight. So basically here, when we talk about deep learning, we have the weight and also input. Based on how the difference between input and output, how the model is performing, how accurately the predictions are with respect to actuals, we try to balance the weight. if you see here, there's a W value, right? So that is called weight. Based on the, initially we pick some random weight, and based on the prediction and the actual, we try to adjust the weight and make sure that the formula is, the algorithm is working fine and it is making good predictions, right? So that we will call it as, um, there is a term, let me, the process is repeated over multiple iterations known as epochs until the loss is minimized and model predicts accurately, acceptably accurate. Okay, so the process of repeating this is called as epochs. Okay, a loss function is used to compare the predicted value. So we will try to use the loss function which predicts the, which compares the predicted and the actual values. Okay, so to minimize the loss, we will be maintaining, we will be adjusting the weight. Okay, influence each weight in the network on the loss, right? So like that, at least you should know the high level idea, like in which algorithm we use what type of functions, what type of metrics, and what is the procedure and all. On high level, at least you should have the idea. And coming to Azure machine learning, so in Azure machine learning we will be using the, as I told you, Azure machine learning resource, which will be used in the Azure machine learning studio. So I will show you how you can create it. I have the demo already over here. I can show you that. So here, if you say I have deployed machine learning resource. So it's quite simple, but I was not able to proceed with one thing. Let me also show you that as well. But I will direct you what you can do, what are the steps that you have to follow, and why all of that. But coming to the studio, I was facing one small issue. Let me also show that. Right now, I'm trying to figure it out. If I could able to resolve it, I'll try to mention what was the issue. And if you're also facing the similar issue, you could able to resolve it. Right now, I'm trying to fix the issue. So meanwhile, if anyone is also facing the issue, let me know in the comment section. If I find a solution, I'll definitely put it down. Okay, so first of all, you have to create a resource. Okay, so I will put up this link in the description. You can check it out, okay, on how you can create the resource. And later, once after your resource is ready, so here in the machine learning studio, what we are trying to do is we are trying to predict the value, right? So I will not tell you what model we are using. You should be able to answer this question now. So what exactly we are trying to do here is using the historical data of the bike rentals that happened in the in the history. So using that historical data, we're trying to predict the, the future value, the future bike rental value. So based on certain date and all season and all of that. Okay, so algorithm, what machine learning algorithm we would use for getting this information? You can just pause the video and think for 2 minutes, and then you can, you know either comment it down or you can let me know, right? So, as I told you that we are trying to predict the number of bike rentals, right? We are trying to predict the number, the outcome. That means a label is a number, right? So, in that case, if you're trying to predict the number, as I told you, we would be using the regression model. Based on certain features, we are predicting the label, which is a number or integer, correct? So, if you have gone through the regression doc I have shown in in the video, you would be able to understand what are the steps that we are going to do in the machine learning studio. The first thing that we have done in the regression part is we have to create a data set, right? We should have a data set which we will be splitting into training model and the evaluation, training data set and the evaluation data set, right? So here the same thing that we are doing, what we are doing, just go to, first you create a machine learning resource. Once after you fill up this, you will be able to have the machine learning resource, and then go to machine learning studio. Okay, in the machine learning studio, go to automated ML, and here you should be able to see your resource. Once after you click on your resource, Okay. Uh, as I have already created, I cannot, have it over here. But what you can do is, let me show that. Okay. So what you can do is you can go to the basic settings. Okay. Once after you create a new ML job, or let me show you because I have already done this. Once after you click here, you can just click on this. Okay. In the basic settings, you can just give the job name and the experiment name. Okay. And then click on next. And here you can see task type and data. So here in this case, the task type is regression, because what is the type that we are using, the model type, the regression, because we are trying to predict the numeric value of the bicycle rentals, correct? So go for regression, and then you have to select the data. So for selecting the data, what I would, you can just give the name of it and then click on next. Okay. Once that is done, so till here we have created the data set. Okay. And also click on the select. Here, if you see, I will anyway pass over this link to you. So you can download the bike rental information, because as I told you that we should have the rental information with us already for training the model, right? So you can download this and you can upload that particular file and you can select this particular data set. So once that is done, in the task settings, as I told you, the task type is regression and the data set that we have taken is bike rentals, and the target, right? So the target is we're trying to detect the rentals, which is an integer, correct? And also I told you for the configuration settings, when we are going for regression, what is the metric, primary metric? Let me show you here. Okay, it is slow. Just give me a moment. Okay. So here in the metrics, as I told you, normalized root mean squared error, correct? Root mean square error. So this we would be using for determining our value. This is the primary metric that we are using. And then this is all you can leave, and you can as per the documentation they have taken only these two because it is taking longer time, and these are the limits that they have kept with respect to timeout and number of retries and all of that, and validation and train. So train validation split we are taking, and for the compute, this is with respect to the machine, virtual machine that we are using, the configuration and all of that. So once after you do it, you can just run the model. It will take some time. So once after, you can see that the algorithm that we've used, for me it was something different, it was not the same. So once after you go inside that, you can see the results. You can see, let me show you for mine. So here if you see, for me the algorithm name is this, and if I go inside the metrics, right? So for me, you can just go for selecting the metrics. You can see all the values over here. What is the values of all of this? Normalized root mean square error is this, right? So you can see the predicted value output and the residuals output, right? So all the values you can just check out what is the value that is coming up and all of that. So once after you see that, you can just deploy the model. So here are the steps, like you can, how you can deploy the model, and you can test the model. So now you have to test by running on some test data. Okay. So for this test data, what will be the output? This is the output. Okay. So for me, I'm actually failing at this last step. Apart from that, I could able to see all the different metrics that it has generated and everything. But I'm actually, when I go to the endpoints, and when I'm trying with the endpoint, the test, let me give a try again. So I'm actually facing one error over here. So that is one thing, I'm figuring it out now. Let me see that. If I could able to resolve it, I'll try to let you know what was an error and how you can resolve if you're also facing the same thing. But yes, this is how you can actually use machine learning studio in order to, like, you might have understood, right? Like how you can create a data set, choose the model, and have the compute, and you can how you can actually run the model, and how you can check the results, like residuals and all of that. So this is how you can do it. And the most important thing here is to understand the various types of algorithms that we have, what actually the different training methods that you can do, how you can actually evaluate the metrics. These are the most important things that you have to understand while doing this, right? So cool. I think it's clear for you. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comments, and in next video I'm going to come up with Vision Studio. This is the most interesting concept as per me, because here we will see OCR, we will see face recognition, we will see extraction, a lot of things that we will try to see in the computer vision. So the Vision Studio is something that a personal interest for me, and if you also would love to explore more on that, do subscribe to my channel. And if you like the videos, do let me know in the comments, and also don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Till then, bye.